Today, I welcome Lana Jelenjev, who, since getting breast cancer 4 years ago, has flipped the narrative of her life and now helps entrepreneurs get clarity and take action. Even though she's not an art teacher, she has a lot of lessons for teachers on how to handle the emotional chaos of the work we do. This is Cindy Ingram, and welcome to the Art Class Curator podcast, where we're taking art out of the dark with thoughtful explorations and in-depth interviews designed to ignite curiosity and delight in art classrooms everywhere. Before we get started with today's interview, I want to remind you that starting on August 2nd, this Thursday, we have a new video series called Year of Art, and the video series will help you plan for your entire year of art appreciation lessons. This is going to be the year that you incorporate more looking at art with your students, and the video series will help you get there. You can sign up for the video series at artclasscurator.com/yearart. Now let's get started with our interview. Well, I am so pleased to welcome Lana Jelenjev to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Cindy. Thank you for having me.
So you are in or near Amsterdam right now. So it is first thing in the morning for you right now?
Yes, around 6:15 in the morning.
Yeah, it's 11 p.m. at night for me. So this is past my bedtime. But I'm doing pretty good. I drank some coffee, so we're ready to go. So you're not an art teacher and you're on a podcast for art teachers, but I wanted to invite you to the podcast because I have been sort of an online friend follower for almost the whole time I've had my website. And I have really enjoyed watching your journey as you started out as a blogger and your blog was Smart Tinker. And now you are just kicking butt with this entrepreneur business that you're working on. And I just thought you would have a lot of really great insight for art teachers, and I just wanted an excuse to talk to you more. So can you tell us a little bit more about you and your background and your story?
Okay, so thank you very much, Cindy, for having me in your podcast. Like what you said, yes, I did get into blogging, and that was, wow, how long was that ago? About 5 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And as a background, I'm a child development specialist, so I've been trained in the education field as well. So I've been training teachers and giving consultancy for schools. And that has been my profession for more than a decade. And I actually love doing it. You know, I love giving trainings to teachers. I love giving trainings to parents. My focus has been on making thinking visible. And this is also something that is very much related to art education. And in that sense, you know, the consultancy work is something that I sometimes do. I still have a school in Indonesia that I give trainings to, and they ask me to come there once a year, or also in the Philippines. And right now I'm volunteering as a teacher for my kids' school. So teaching, giving trainings to teachers has always been in my background. Mm-hmm. But like what you said, yes, you know, it was like, oh, I shifted to entrepreneurship. So there's a backstory behind there. And that was because in 2013, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And from that time on, it really gave me a long me time, a long period of really reflecting and figuring out what is it that I want to do and who do I want to do it for. And at that time, one of the main reasons that I shifted, or what we call pivot in the industry, is mainly because I wanted to preserve my energy. And I realized that talking to parents or to teachers is, as much as I love doing it, sometimes it can be draining for me, on an energetical level. So for me at that time, I was like, okay, since I was in that mode of, preserve myself, preserve my energy, value my time, I started giving clarity sessions, mainly because, it's also something that I do with my consultancy before. And then I just stumbled across some friends of mine who said, okay, I want to start my business. I have this idea, so I'll have these sessions. And I realized, I was pretty good at it in helping them get the clarity. And that was when I started thinking, okay, maybe it's something to consider, talking more and listening more to what entrepreneurs have to say, or budding entrepreneurs have to say about their ideas. And so that's when I accidentally stumbled upon a different niche. And that was 2 years ago. From 2 years ago things have just escalated. I found my business partner. We decided to put our planner in Kickstarter, and things just skyrocketed in that sense of, okay, I'm now fully into training, giving trainings and giving strategy workshops and sessions with entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and I love how, you were taking all of those same skills that you were using as a consultant for schools, and you're using them just in different ways. And I imagine that all of that communication experience and all those individual relationships you formed over the last, career is helping you daily in your...
Oh, definitely, definitely. A big part of what we do at CoLab, because we're also developing our own tools, a big part of what we do is also making thinking visible. So we've created this chaos mapping tool, and part of it is that, how do you make your ideas visible? So yeah, it's fascinating, the skills, the tools, the strategies that you learn as a teacher or as an educator are skills that you can really use in other areas.
Yeah. And so you said chaos mapping tool, and my sensors went up because teaching is nothing if not chaotic sometimes. So how is this something that a teacher could use, or what's a way to think about the chaos from a teacher's perspective?
This is fascinating. How we're using the chaos model is mainly because we realize that how we go through life, or how even in our profession, is we get settled into a status quo, and then something happens, which is our inciting incident, and then it throws us off the loop, and that's when chaos ensues. So we're following this model by Virginia Satir, which is the change model, and we realize that it's so much similar to how we see entrepreneurship or even teaching. As you may say, you've been teaching for quite a long time, and then all of a sudden there's something that happens, and then you realize, is this really it? Or is there something more that I can do?
Yeah.
And then you're interested into that period of chaos where you look at old patterns, look at old situations, and, are suddenly challenging them or looking at them in a different perspective. So chaos mapping for us is a way to just give space to what is in the now. And it's very simple, the tool is very simple to use. It's mainly, dumping everything that is going in your life at that particular moment. And when we do mind maps, we look for connections. When we do chaos mapping, there's no judgment, it's just putting in a big piece of paper, and without any notion of how it connects to, which is how it comes for you. So we do have, a series of prompts when people would want to try the chaos tool, but basically it's just dumping everything on a big piece of paper and seeing, and then later on, after you've done and, put out everything, seeing how things connect. So it's a reverse of a mind mapping, because with the mind mapping, you have already an idea of, I'd want to see how things connect, and would make concepts connect to each other. But here is just a process of write things down. If by writing things down you see, okay, this one, I'll add this to here, but there's no intention of connections or or previous judgment related to things.
Yeah, there's no sort of set outcome that you're expecting at the end of it. It's just, so are you writing down like the thoughts that are going through your head, your ideas? Or are you also writing down your feelings and emotions, just anything that comes up?
Yeah, people who can support you on what's going on. You can also write down, aspirations. So it's really like a blank slate, and then just dumping everything that's in your head and heart, and then just seeing, just after doing it, I always suggest do it for an hour and a half, and then after doing it, just to step back, and then there's the next process related to it. So it's fascinating, and it's fascinating. We're seeing it with our clients, how they're doing it. On a personal level, it's also something that we do. I also use this for my mastermind. So it's a very nice way of looking at, okay, so what has been your status quo? What has been normal for you? And then how did things change? What happened? What is your inciting incident? And this is also a way to acknowledge that, in most cases, we can't keep on doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
So there's really that element of, okay, something's got to give. And
Yes.
before plunging in, oh, I need to change things, which is the normal pattern. You see things that you don't like, and then you get into solution mode of, oh, I want to change things. So in between of embracing the chaos allows us to just really see and to give perspective to what is happening in the now.
Yeah, I think that is such a useful idea because I know there are moments throughout like a teacher's life where they are completely overwhelmed. I mean, it's almost every day, honestly, and you feel like there's something wrong. There's something that you're not getting, or there's just this inkling of something that you can't articulate. And I see it all the time in the Facebook groups. And I'm in so many different art teacher Facebook groups. And the people are like, what would I do if I wasn't teaching? Because they get to the point where they're like, I can't do this anymore. But I think if they stopped and wrote it all down and kind of mapped that chaos that's going in their head, they might end up with this sense of clarity at the end of it, where you notice, okay, there's one part of that thing that you wrote down that is causing you a lot of anxiety, like, okay, that's the sticking point, or you start, you can pick out how you're emotionally responding.
And then it's also fascinating to explore it from that period of, we see chaos as a time of great creativity and exploration.
Yeah.
This is when you try to look for strategies that would work, mainly because you've been doing things and the strategy that you've employed in what you're doing has not been working. So chaos for us is that period where, when you embrace it, it's really a period of experimentation. So if this didn't work, what can I do next? If this didn't work, what's the next one? In entrepreneurship, it's also the same. And this is also what we share with our clients, that when you're starting out with a business idea, it's not just a one idea that you do, but it's a constant reiteration process of, oh, this is the idea, I'll test it out. Did people like it? No, they didn't really buy it. Okay, so how can we pivot? How can we do things better? So it's that process that is very different. And on a traditionally schooled system, like if we think of, how we're trained as individuals, we're trained to just stick through it. Whereas, an entrepreneur mindset is very different. To be an entrepreneur, you need to have that as a skill of pivoting, there's a difference between persevering and pivoting, and to be able to know, when do you pull the plug, or when do you try, or how do you try differently so that you can persevere on what it is that you're trying to do or trying to accomplish.
Well, so what are some of the things that someone can do if they're in this situation where they're deciding whether to pivot and I don't know if you're not in the business world, if you know exactly what pivot is. So for those of you who might not know, I'm sure I have no idea. I'm so wrapped up in this world and I'm like, it makes total sense to me. But it's just like, a slight shift in what you're doing or,
change.
It's just a change and when you notice something's not working, you make a change. So how would someone who is in that mindset of, okay, something's wrong, this is not working, what are some of the things they can ask themselves, or what are some things that they can do to decide whether to pivot or whether to stick with it and persevere?
First, what I would definitely advise is to do a chaos map. Allows you to get back on what's going on, just to have a clearer picture. Sometimes just by writing things down, we get to get a glimpse of what's going on that we don't often see. And this is very true if we really look at it. Making things visible has, for me, I did the training, and that has been very instrumental for me to realize, by just making my thinking visible for myself, I get to understand myself better. So for me, this is what chaos mapping is. It's just making the now be visible for them, and for them to realize, okay, so this is the situation now. And then from there I use this process a lot. And this is something that I've learned while undergoing therapy and I did also nonviolent communication training, or compassionate communication training. And the process of checking in is something that I've been doing on a regular basis. So checking in is a very powerful tool to keep us in alignment. And I'm just so frustrated that we haven't been taught how to check in with ourselves And it's just so powerful that I'm like, if only all individuals can do it, we would have quite a lot, not just clarity, but also ease in life because we know why we're doing things. So it's a very just simple process of, okay, I do this often for myself. Okay, Lana, how are you feeling? And then from what I get, I can then ask myself, so what is it exactly that you need? And then that room to explore, of, oh, okay, so these are my needs. In compassionate communication, the idea is once you've established what you need, the task next to it is to come up with actions or requests to help you fulfill that need. And conflict arises when we get stuck with just one strategy. So like, say, for example, a teacher would probably like, okay, I'm feeling tense. My students are not listening to me. And then you could probably come up with, okay, what is it that you need at that moment? Well, I would need some reassurance that I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
An action that might come out from it will be, okay, probably I can ask a colleague of mine to sit down while I'm teaching so that he or she can give me feedback. So that's one strategy that you can think of as an action to help you, fulfill that reassurance that you need. But like what I said, tensions can arise when you get to be too specific, not just too specific, but too attached to a particular result. So it needs to be a certain feedback, it needs to be a certain assessment. So this is also going, the third part of after checking in is when you think of your actions or your next to-do items is try not to be too attached to an end product, not to be attached to an end goal, because then you leave room for just, exploring, experimenting, allowing what can happen, and also not being in judgment of what the end goal or what it is that comes out from what you're doing.
Oh, that is so powerful, that whole idea of checking in, because we're not taught that. And I don't know that we're teaching our kids that. And it's just, I think especially when I was in the classroom, is I just spent the whole day completely overwhelmed. And then, I'm worrying about the kids or the politics of the school. And I've got coworkers I'm talking to, and I've got, my family texting me, or my kid's sick. And I'm, like, you've got all this stuff going on. And then you never stop and go, okay, what's going on with me? Like, how can I make myself thrive in this situation instead of going to 7-Eleven and eating Kit Kats and getting tacos like I did every day last year at the end of school. So, I think just taking
getting Kit Kats is a strategy. It's a perfectly okay strategy, but if you keep on doing it, then it's not.
Yeah, Takis every day after school and a Kit Kat, maybe not. But
this is, I've seen this with my kids, and we've introduced checking in as a very normal process in our lives. So we'll have like check-in moments. Just a quick question of, okay, check-in moment. How are you feeling? What is it that you need? We even had reminders in the house, especially in the toilet. People use the toilet a lot. So I put there a feelings list and question of, how are you feeling? So every time they're there or washing their hands, they see that one. Or even by the refrigerator, before they open, there's a reminder before you open, check in with your gut. Yeah.
You could put those in the classroom too, just different areas, or have
and I used to do it as a practice in school. What's this? I used to do it also when I was training teachers, that before training, there's a check-in moment that we do. Yeah. So it's a very powerful tool to just ground people, and not just for centering, but also for understanding, what is it exactly that's going on in other people's lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so good. You can set reminders on your phone. I had an Apple Watch. It gives me those breathe reminders every now and then, just randomly. And it always seemed to be when I was really stressed, and I don't know if it was reading my heart rate or what, but it would give me a breathe reminder. And I was like, that's great. And often I didn't ever do it, but getting in the practice really, that would be awesome. My daughter is 8 in the 3rd grade, and she has a really amazing teacher who is really helping her. My daughter has anxiety pretty bad, and she gets a little overwhelmed and she needs to take breaks. And it's almost like little check-in moments. And my daughter's teacher is so good because she can see it on her, and then she'll send her to go get a mint, or she'll to the nurse, or she'll say, let her take a break, or she gives her, when she takes tests, she'll put post-it notes, like especially with the state testing, like she's allowed to put post-it notes at the end of every reading passage so that it reminds her to take a break. So I love, teaching kids that, it's okay to meet your own needs. You don't have to power through everything. You can take a breath. You can step back and look at what's going on. And
exactly. It's so powerful, especially when we see how kids practice it. My son actually is getting to be very good at it. And, when he sees me, he'll be like, "Mommy, is there anything that you need?"
That's amazing. That is amazing, because my daughter is not there yet.
Well, it's a practice. It's a practice. And eventually, they pick up very quickly when it comes to this.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. So kind of on the same topic-ish, I was on your Facebook page, and your company is Collab.
Yes.
And so I was on the Collab Facebook page, and you were writing about a Filipino philosophy called Pakikiramdam.
Yeah.
And I really loved it. And you had a little image quote that says there's a deep connection between accessing our own humanity and sensing our wholeness. But I really loved this full post. Can you describe what that is?
Okay. So what's this? Pakikiramdam is basically tuning in to someone or to what is going on. And it was fascinating because this stems from the Filipino psychology. And in essence, people will be like, "Oh, Filipino psychology, what is it?" So the idea behind having it really specified as Filipino psychology is based also on observations on how Filipinos live and do things. And pakikiramdam is one of the essential values that is very much noticeable in the Filipino culture. Sometimes we would say, sometimes it can go a little bit way out of hand, that it becomes more as a people-pleasing behavior because tuning so much to the others. Because in the Filipino psyche, we have more of an extended family. So we're very much an extended culture. So the others is a very important component in how we make decisions, in how we live our lives. So pakikiramdam is really tuning in and sensing what the others are feeling and needing at that moment. But like what I said, at one end of the spectrum, it can be, it can turn into a very nasty habit of people pleasing because you're so tuning in with what they're thinking or what they're feeling that you're not tuning in with yours. So balancing it is really a very good way of knowing, what are their needs and what are my needs. And in the practice of compassionate communication, there is this idea of self-fullness, which is I know my needs and I know your needs. And the decision that I would make is, coming from acknowledging your needs and acknowledging mine. So that for me is a tool, it's a tool to know what other people are experiencing. And in that aspect, how they're experiencing things can also affect you as an individual and affect decisions that you would want to take in.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting what you were saying too about finding that balance, because I know that especially when I was younger, so much of my existence relied on what other people thought and what other people thought of me and what I, it never really was like, okay, what do I think of me and what do I need versus, and then I started, once you realize that everyone else has their own feelings and struggles and you learn to notice those and to connect to those, that then you have the freedom to do that for yourself. I don't know if I'm making
true. There is quite a lot of the, culture that we're brought up in of, you have to think of others. And if you think about yourself, you're selfish.
Yes.
Just the mere idea of thinking about yourself puts you in that, label of, you're selfish. You're not thinking of other people. And that's why I like the term self-fullness, because when I think of my needs and when I think of your needs, it doesn't make me selfish. It makes me self-full.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
And I know then, how to make decisions, because I can, it's the idea of I know how to fill my cup.
Mm-hmm.
And by filling my cup, I know also how to proceed. Again, this is a reframing. A lot of the things that I've been working on the past few years is a big reframing. And it's coming from, when I was into therapy, I really had a good look at, okay, so what are certain, cultural standards or practices that I've just, blindly taken in. And with that, that's one of it. The idea of, if I think about my feelings, people think of me as very selfish. Believe me, I've had people who, in one way or another, have said that when I told them that I don't want their help when I was undergoing chemotherapy. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I had people see me as selfish because I was not, saying yes to their offer of help.
Wow.
And that was when I realized, no, it's not that I'm saying no to you. It's that I'm saying yes to my need for privacy.
Yeah.
So there's a very big difference. When I say no to something, it means I'm saying yes to something. And it's by tuning in to what I'm saying yes to that makes it even easier to make those decisions. So it's going back to that idea of a lot of us have been schooled in that train of thought that if you don't think about the welfare of other people, then you're being so selfish. You're not being considerate. There's quite a lot of labels that goes on in those situations. So this is also, like I said, it's a big reframing. It's a different shift in mindset.
Yeah, I love that because, as an art teacher, you get asked to do a lot of extra work on top of what you're already doing. I mean, you're already teaching hundreds of students and you're hanging all the art on the walls and you're doing all the things. And then, another teacher will come and say, I need a poster made for this event that's tomorrow. And the principal will say, I actually had a principal who had me do this she wanted me to paint all the faces of all the Santa and carolers for the Christmas decorations into a multicultural carolers and Santa, which was one of the funniest things I've ever done. But, you're constantly asked to do all of those things and then run an art club or do this and that. And you have to find that line and draw your boundaries because even last year, the kids really wanted an art club. Everybody really wanted an art club, but I had 2 kids at home. One of them was really struggling with anxiety and I had a family and I had to say no to that art club because it was saying yes to my family and it was saying yes to me and my sanity because I am I'm in an extreme sort of I get sensory overload. So by the end of the day, I can't have more kids around me. I just can't do it. But I was guilty all year though. The kids were like, I want an art club and an art club. But you need to, I think learning to say no is big.
Yeah. Well, I think the concept of the no is, again, coming from that, that, if you say no, you're a bad person. And then the guilt settles in, like what you said. How I see it is when I say no, it means that the yes that I'm saying yes to is really powerful and it's a very big need. Like what you said, your sanity is important, of course,
Saying yes to myself meant that I was a better teacher for them the next day.
In the long run, exactly.
And I am very passionate about teachers leaving at the end of the day. Like I really want everybody to leave. I don't want anyone saying until 8 and they'll brag and they'll be like, I was here till 9 p.m. last night. I'm like, that's not something to brag about. Like you leave at the end of the day. I know it's really hard, but you need to say no to staying late so you can say yes to having a life outside of school.
Yes, I'm very glad that you pointed this out because it's the same thing that we say to entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
That in a lot of ways people say, so proud that I'm hustling and we're like, no, actually not. We don't espouse that idea of you have to hustle, you have to do things till midnight. And because at the end of the day, you need to see what you're doing as just a part of your life. Like what you said, work is just one part of life. And having, managing other areas of life is also very important. And also having that environment that can support that. So personally, when I do consultancy work for schools, I don't approve of doing things, till the next day or till how long. So for me, it's very important that these boundaries are set, mainly because, yes, I'd want individuals who come to the workshops or people who I interact with to know that there are other things in their lives that they need to feel accomplished, to feel successful. And work can just be one part of that. I love the book, The Power of Full Engagement, and also Essentialism. So these are two powerful books that has really given me that reframing as to, okay, how do I set boundaries? Essentialism has done that, has helped me identify what is essential, and from there, move forward with it. And also the idea of, okay, your full engagement, meaning there's periods of rest and there's periods of work. And how do you balance that? Because it's similar to athletes, you don't train, you also have periods of recovery. You also have periods where you let your body rest. So it's the same thought of, okay, how do we let our bodies and our minds rest after accomplishing a full days of work? So those are areas that not a lot of people talk about, because we've been bombarded with this idea of, we have to be busy, but for people to know that we're hardworking.
Oh man, I need those lessons. I'm going to read those books. I'm one of those people who I just can't sit still. I always have to be busy. And I'm like, I know there's something to that. I probably need to not do that anymore. So I'm going to put links to those in the show notes. So if anybody else wants to check them out, I definitely need that lesson, because I'm working on it. I am.
It's a work in progress. I mean, it's the same thing for me. There will be times where I'll just like, okay, I'll just sit down on the sofa right now, and then still not have that guilt of, you should be doing this. You have a ton of lists to do. Why aren't you doing it? So it's still a big learning process as to, what? It's okay. When I sit down, that's self-care, and self-care needs to be added, in the calendar as well.
Yes, definitely. And too, there are seasons where you're going to be busier, and seasons where you're going to have more time to rest. So I think just giving yourself as much grace as you can, and just, doing the best you can at it, and being mindful and check in with yourself.
Yeah. And I like also the idea that when doing work, it's not about doing the end result in a shortest amount of time. What I like seeing it is more of a micro habit. What is the 1% that I can do today that helps me get closer to, and where or how can I add that 1% in my schedule? So like for teachers, it might be, I'd want to have a bit more organization when it comes to work, or when it comes to the materials. The dogs are waking up.
Good morning.
So that 1% is a way to set things and to give you that idea of, if this is my goal, how can I get closer to it?
Yeah. I love that, because I am one of those people who I hate to stop if I'm not finished with something. And so I will work and I will work and I will work and I will work until I am finished. And setting those like small incremental 1% goals, I think that's a lesson I should work on as well. Having my own little therapy session here today. Things I need to work on. So that's awesome. You gave teachers, I think, a lot to think about, and I hope that they found that valuable. So can you tell us a little bit more about your 90-day action planner and kind of the big project you're working on right now?
Yes. So the 90-day action planner, we put it at Kickstarter. And to be honest, it took us also 90 days to write it and create it. Our basic premise is, again, it comes back to, you don't have to work in one go. Our basic premise is to chunk activities so that you get towards your goal. So the 90-day action planner has that element of, what is it that you want? But a lot of it is really on alignment, getting to that alignment first of it was written for entrepreneurs, who do you want to serve? What's your ideal day look like? What is your vision? So having that alignment, and then from that alignment to plot, what are the activities that you want to do? What are the projects that you want to do? And to have a way to decide on which ideas to move forward with. Because let's face it, as creative individuals, we have quite a lot of ideas. So it's also a matter of figuring out, having a decision matrix to just say, okay, what ideas can I do? And putting it in 90-day frame allows you to work on things and to see how far you can go within 90-day periods. There has been a research done that after 90 days, the motivation wanes. So putting it in as 90-day frameworks help you to just say, okay, if this is a project, I'll get it done within 90 days. Of course, make it realistic as well, to make it done within 90 days and have, your daily progress. What are your top 3 things? It makes use also of the idea of intention setting. So my intention for today is this. And the people who can support me, which is more of really finding your circles of connection, would be this and this person. So it, in essence, is really just a tool to prime you for doing your task or your activities that you've set out for yourself for the next 90 days. Yeah, so we set it out as a Kickstarter campaign. It got fully funded from the time that we run it. And this time we're doing it as a toolkit. And we would again put it as a Kickstarter campaign for it around October. So, cool. This is definitely something that I can share with you about. And basically, our premise is a lot of people, before they get into doing things that they want or they like, the idea that they have is to get first into a state of alignment. To really understand what's your purpose, why are you doing it, what's the red thread ties it all together. And by being clear with that, then you also get to be clear on the other parts. This is what 90-Day Action Planner is all about.
Yeah, I love that. And that whole idea has really rung true in my life too. It's just a matter of, I am an idea generator. As you were talking, I wrote down 3 ideas just now of things, I wrote them down. Now I have this whole plan of this 90-day, like a summer action planner for teachers planning the year. It's all going on, but I have to stop myself and I have to figure out what's my true clarity. What are my goals for my life? I can't do all of those things. So I think taking a step back and really analyzing the motivation and analyzing everything beforehand, I think is really a great idea and something, anybody can use in their life, not just entrepreneurs, but just living your life with intention, I think is just such a powerful thing. So we will link to your 90-Day Action Planner in the show notes. And
I can also offer a raffle, for your listeners, and for them to write down, why it is that they would want the 90-Day Action Planner. And then from the comments, we can, do a raffle.
That would be awesome. So in the comments, should we do it on Facebook or should we do it on the blog post?
Either.
Probably the blog post would be easier to manage.
Yeah.
So on the blog show notes for this episode, right in the comments.
Why you'll need the 90-Day Action Planner.
Why you need the 90-Day Action Planner. And Lana will give us a copy. That's amazing. Thank you so much for that. I don't have a copy. I did contribute to the Kickstarter campaign, but I did the lowest one. I didn't get the actual planner because I was the low on funds. But I wanted to support what you were doing.
Thank you.
All right. I'm looking forward to the next one, though, because I think that's probably after talking to you.
It's an entire toolkit. We'll have the chaos map added there.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be separate, as a workbook and a book.
Awesome. Okay. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. So tell us the link to your website.
I can write it down later. So it's code-lab.community. And we also have an online community for entrepreneurs. So all those things I can share with you later on. And we're very much active at LinkedIn. So right now I'm doing a 90-day series on building impactful communities.
I saw that on your Facebook.
Yeah. So that's running in LinkedIn right now. And so basically follow us and feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Okay. So thank you so much. So that was co-lab.community. And I asked this question to everyone, and I'm not sure if you have an answer to it, but I'm going to ask you anyway. So do you have an artwork that changed your life? Or is there any particular artwork that has spoken to you?
I can share with you our wall so you can also see were a big.
I'm going to take a screenshot because most people are going to be listening. Hold on one sec. Okay, I got it. I can put that in the show notes.
As you can see, there's also some, but that one I didn't do.
So those are all that you made?
No, this one I didn't do. An artist friend of ours did this. Mm-hmm. But yes, the art wall that you saw are artworks that the kids and I have been doing. But we're very big on family art. Mm-hmm. So my favorite artist is Clint. And I really like the gold, the lines. Yeah. But in terms of an artwork, I haven't really been touched by something very particular. Yeah. What I do like though is something that's hanging in our kitchen, in our kitchen wall, and I'll walk a bit so that you can say.
Awesome! I'm going to screenshot it too when I get it.
So as you can see, that's hearts.
That's pretty. Did your family make that?
Yes, each one of us did the hearts.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah. So I mean, it doesn't have to be a famous artwork that changed your life.
That for me is, if I think of an artwork, that for me is one of my favorites because it just, shows love and the contribution that each one of us gives in the family.
I am going to steal that and make because that is awesome. So I will show pictures in the show notes too of that as well. I love that. That's such a great idea.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And yeah, leave a comment to win a copy of the planner. And I hope you all got super inspired by what Lana had to say because I know I did.
Thank you, Cindy. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and give us an honest rating on iTunes. This will help other teachers find us and hear these amazing stories. Do you want even more art inspiration? Sign up for Art Class Curator's once a week email newsletter, Your Weekly Art Break. Teacher Sarah Warnock says, I truly do take a break from my busy week to check all your links and feel inspired. Everything you share is relevant, meaningful, and also super helpful. You definitely help me become a better art teacher, and I look forward to your emails each week. You can sign up at artclasscurator.com/artbreak. And as a free gift for subscribing, you'll get 6 free art interpretation worksheets to use in your classroom. Thanks so much to Lana for sharing her journey with us. I continue to be inspired by her each day. I invite you to follow her at Collab and also visit the show notes at artclasscurator.com/12. To enter the giveaway, leave a comment on that post with an insight about today's podcast before the end of the month, August 31st. And thanks so much to Lana for that unexpected and gracious gift.